Welcome back to Stamps Old World UK, the channel where history, heritage, and philately come together to uncover the true value of vintage stamps from across the British Isles and beyond. In today's in-depth episode, we're turning our focus to one of the most celebrated and collectible high-value stamps ever released in Great Britain, the £1 Castle Stamp featuring Queen Elizabeth II and Windsor Castle. This timeless masterpiece isn't just a relic of royal mail, it's a symbol of the nation's architectural pride and regal tradition, and it carries immense value in today's stamp collecting market. In this extended video, we will explore the history behind this legendary stamp, why collectors around the world are still chasing it in 2025, and exactly how much it's worth in today's market, valued in US dollars. The £1 Castle Stamp was part of the iconic high-value Castle series introduced in 1955 under the reign of Queen Elizabeth II. It was originally produced by the highly respected printing firm Waterloo & Sons, and later editions were printed by De La Rue. The design was a collaboration of artistic excellence. The central image is the majestic Windsor Castle, a royal residence with over 900 years of history, perfectly captured with intricate engraving. To the right, the stamp features a regal portrait of a young Queen Elizabeth II based on the famous photograph by Dorothy Wilding. The combination of heritage, architecture, royalty, and elegant design made this stamp a jewel among British philatelic issues. Unlike ordinary stamps, this was not a commemorative stamp, it was a definitive, meant for everyday use, but its high denomination of £1 meant it was mainly used for parcels, international mail, and heavier correspondence, making it less common than lower denominations and highly prized today. Now let's talk value. In 2025, stamp collectors and dealers across the globe are placing increasing importance on condition, authenticity, and printing variations. A mint, unhinged £1 Castle Stamp in flawless condition can fetch anywhere from $50 to $100. If it comes from the Waterloo printing with original gum, sharp perforations, and vivid ink tones, the price can rise even higher, often reaching $150 to $200 or more at auction. If you happen to own a corner block of 4, or a full sheet, the value multiplies significantly. Used versions of the stamp, especially those with clean postmarks and no damage, are also valuable, often selling between $15 and $50 depending on their visual appeal and rarity. Stamps with interesting cancellations, such as those from overseas military bases or historic offices, are also in demand. But the story doesn't end there. Some varieties of the £1 Castle have fetched incredibly high prices due to unique features. These include color shifts, plate errors, re-entries, and watermark differences. The Waterloo printings are especially prized because they were produced in smaller quantities and show exceptional engraving quality. Collectors with a keen eye for detail often examine the tiny differences in the shading of the Queen's portrait or the texture of the castle stonework to identify rare plate flaws. These small features can make a massive difference in value. In some cases, certified rare examples with printing errors have sold for over $300, especially when presented with expert certificates from philatelic authorities like the British Philatelic Association or the Royal Philatelic Society London. As we move deeper into 2025, the global stamp market is showing strong trends of appreciation in value, particularly for mid-20th century British stamps. Many collectors are moving away from mass-produced modern issues and turning their attention toward the golden age of British philately, the era from the 1930s to the 1970s. The Castle series fits perfectly into this trend. Their engraved designs, royal themes, and historical connections make them more than just postage, they are collectible assets. Online marketplaces such as eBay, HipStamp, and Delcamp show increasing competition for well-preserved £1 Castle stamps. Bidding wars are not uncommon, and demand from buyers in the United States, Canada, Germany, Australia, and Asia is stronger than ever. Auction houses are reporting more private collectors entering the market with serious intent to invest in British classics. It's also important to understand that stamp collecting has evolved. Today's serious collectors often look for provenance, a stamp's documented history of ownership, and many prefer stamps that have been graded or authenticated. This is especially true for higher-value stamps like the £1 Castle. Whether you're selling or buying, it is essential to handle stamps carefully using stamp tongs, store them in archival quality stockbooks or albums, and avoid exposure to heat, light, or moisture. Stamps in top condition with certificates of authenticity always command premium prices. And remember, philately isn't just about buying and selling, it's about storytelling. Each stamp carries with it a piece of history, and the £1 Castle tells the story of Britain's royal heritage, architectural splendor, and imperial communication system. Now, let's imagine you come across a full set of castle stamps, 2 shillings and 6 pence, 5 shillings, 10 shillings, and the crown jewel, the £1 Windsor Castle Stamp. A complete mint set of these in fine condition can easily be worth over $300 to $400, depending on printing and presentation. Add to that a first-day cover, or a postal history item bearing a castle stamp that traveled across the British Empire, and you've got a collector's dream. The market for such items is growing steadily as more collectors recognize their historical and aesthetic value. So what does this all mean for you, the viewer? Whether you inherited a family album, bought a stamp collection at auction, or picked up a few classics at a flea market, don't overlook the high-value castle stamps. Take the time to research, compare your items with catalog references like Stanley Gibbons or Scott, and if needed, consult a trusted expert. Even if you're not ready to sell now, knowing the true market value of your stamps in US dollars can help you protect your investment or make informed decisions when trading with other collectors. Next up, the legendary Castle series, turning our spotlight to the striking 10 shillings blue stamp featuring Edinburgh Castle and Queen Elizabeth II. This stamp is not just an item of postal necessity, it's a national treasure. Issued in the mid-20th century, it carries with it the architectural glory of Scotland and the regal presence of a young monarch, all encapsulated in a beautifully engraved design. As we explore this iconic stamp in depth, we'll reveal its fascinating background, collector appeal, and most importantly, its true value in today's stamp market, with prices now climbing steadily and often quoted in US dollars. The 10 shillings castle stamp is part of the renowned high-value definitive series introduced in 1955 under Queen Elizabeth II's reign. This series showcased 4 of the United Kingdom's most prominent castles, each representing a part of the British Union. The 10 shillings stamp, printed in an elegant shade of blue, proudly displays the formidable Edinburgh Castle perched on Castle Rock, overlooking the Scottish capital. This design was printed by Waterlow and Sons in its earliest run, and later by De La Rue and Bradbury Wilkinson. Beside the castle stands the youthful portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, derived from the photographic work of Dorothy Wilding, a depiction that became iconic in early Elizabethan philately. This powerful combination of royal symbolism and national architecture makes the 10 shillings castle stamp one of the most sought-after pieces among collectors worldwide. So what is the value of this stunning stamp in 2025? Today's stamp market is more dynamic than ever, and rare, historical stamps like the 10 shillings castle have seen a resurgence in interest. A mint condition, unmounted 10 shillings castle stamp can easily be worth between $30 to $90 US. If it's from the original Waterlow printing and exhibits perfect centering, strong color, and pristine gum, the value can climb well over $100. Used stamps are also highly desirable, especially those with light, clear postmarks that do not obscure the central design. These typically sell between $10 and $40. However, if the stamp features a rare plate variety, re-entry mark, or a printing flaw, even used examples can sell for upwards of $150 or more, especially if accompanied by a certificate of authenticity. In recent auctions, high-grade examples of the 10 shillings castle stamp have been attracting strong bids from collectors in the United States, Germany, Australia, and Asia, as well as serious philatelists within the UK. Auction houses report increased interest in presentation packs, cylinder blocks, and corner margin copies of the Castle series, especially when in mint or near mint condition. Online platforms like eBay and Delcamp also show a surge in listings for Castle series stamps, and prices continue to trend upwards, particularly for those printed by Waterlow and Sons due to their sharper engraving and limited print run. One of the most fascinating aspects of the 10 shillings castle stamp is its historical context. It was issued during a time when Great Britain was still emerging from post-war recovery and asserting its modern identity through symbols of monarchy and heritage. The use of national castles in stamp design reflected a deep connection to history and culture. Edinburgh Castle, in particular, is a Scottish icon with centuries of history as a military stronghold and royal residence. This connection to national pride and royal representation gives the stamp emotional and cultural value, in addition to its monetary worth. Collectors who value this symbolism tend to treasure the 10 shillings castle not just as a collectible, but as a tribute to British unity and history. As we move deeper into 2025, it's clear that philately is not only surviving in the digital age, it's thriving. The availability of high-resolution scans, expert grading services, and online collector communities has made it easier than ever to research, verify, and trade rare stamps. Stamps like the 10 shillings castle, which combine beauty, history, and relative scarcity, are perfectly positioned to benefit from this renewed attention. More collectors are looking to build specialized collections focused on high-value definitives, and the Castle series, with its bold design and royal themes, is at the center of that focus. If you are fortunate enough to own a 10 shillings Castle stamp, it's important to protect and preserve it properly. Always handle stamps using soft-tip tweezers, store them in archival quality albums, and avoid exposing them to direct sunlight or humidity. If your stamp shows signs of aging, such as gum toning or surface damage, its value may decrease, but it can still hold significant historical and collector interest. For maximum value, consider getting your stamp evaluated and certified by a reputable philatelic society or appraiser. In conclusion, the 10 shillings Castle stamp is more than a postal relic, it's a visual chronicle of the United Kingdom's royal heritage, Scottish pride, and mid-century design excellence. In today's collector market, its value continues to grow as more people recognize the importance of preserving these masterpieces. Whether mint or used, the 10 shillings Castle is a valuable piece of history that any serious collector would be proud to own. Next up, the 2D Queen Elizabeth II Wilding stamp, printed in a rich reddish-brown color. While this stamp may seem modest in appearance, and to some perhaps even common due to its mass use in the mid-20th century, it is anything but ordinary when you uncover its deeper historical roots, design brilliance, printing variations, and increasing value in today's collector market. Whether you are a beginner or an experienced collector, this stamp holds layers of value, symbolic, cultural, and financial, and in this extended episode, we will explore every detail. So let's dive in and unravel the true worth of the 2D Wilding stamp in today's stamp market, quoted in US dollars as of 2025. To begin with, the 2D Wilding stamp comes from the Wilding Definitive series, which was introduced in 1952 to mark the beginning of Queen Elizabeth II's reign following the death of her father, King George VI. The image used for this iconic series was based on an official photographic portrait taken by Dorothy Wilding, one of the most celebrated court photographers of the time. This image was the very first official portrait of the newly crowned queen and quickly became a symbol of continuity and renewal for a nation still recovering from the war years. The design of the 2D stamp features not only the youthful and elegant profile of Queen Elizabeth II wearing the George IV state diadem but also a surrounding floral wreath composed of the Tudor rose, thistle, shamrock, and daffodil, each representing England, Scotland, Ireland, and Wales respectively. These national emblems were chosen carefully to symbolize the unity of the United Kingdom, making the stamp not just a postal item, but a statement of British identity and royal tradition. The reddish-brown 2D Wilding was one of the most frequently used values in the series, serving as the standard rate for local letters and various domestic services. Because of its wide use, millions were printed and circulated. However, despite its initial commonness, the value of the 2D Wilding in today's philatelic market depends on numerous factors such as condition, gum quality, hinge marks, watermark variety, phosphor band presence, and production source. While a regular use 2D stamp might be worth between 20 cents to $1, a mint example with full gum and no hinge marks typically commands between $3 to $6 depending on centering, paper tone, and overall presentation. However, that's just the tip of the iceberg. There are several known printing varieties and valuable versions of this stamp, some of which have fetched significantly higher prices in philatelic auctions. Let's talk about some of the rarities. The Wilding stamps went through several printings and were produced with various watermarks including the Tudor crown, St. Edward's crown, and even inverted or sideways watermark variations, all of which affect a stamp's value. A 2D Wilding stamp with a watermark error or variety can easily reach between $10 and $25. The stamps were also printed both with and without phosphor bands, used to automate mail sorting in the 1960s. A mint 2D stamp with a rare phosphor band variation, such as misplaced, wide, or missing bands, can be worth upwards of $30 to $80, especially when verified and documented by experts. If the stamp has a shifted perforation, doubled image, or comes from a cylinder block showing marginal inscriptions or plate numbers, the value can go much higher. Some rare pieces in pristine condition have sold for over $100 in global auctions. Another avenue where the 2D Wilding shines is in booklet panes and coil rolls. These formats were issued for ease of use in public spaces and businesses, and some of them included unique marginal markings, advertising tags, or plate guides. Collectors who specialize in these formats look for specific editions and cylinder numbers. And a complete booklet containing multiple 2D stamps in perfect mint condition can be worth $50 to $150, depending on rarity and completeness. Coil leader strips or early trials are even more sought after by specialists, and these items rarely appear in the open market. Postal history collectors also find great interest in the 2D Wilding stamp, particularly when it appears on cover. Envelopes bearing clean examples of this stamp with legible postmarks, especially those tied to historic events, rare post towns, or foreign destinations, have significant appeal. For instance, a 2D Wilding on an air letter or first day cover from the early 1950s, especially one issued during the coronation year of 1953, can fetch between $10 and $40. Some have sold for even higher amounts when associated with royal correspondence, military history, or used on registered or censored wartime mail. Now let's zoom out and talk about how the 2D Wilding fits into the larger collecting trends of 2025. The global stamp collecting community has seen a resurgence in interest in classic British philately, especially among collectors in the United States, Canada, Australia, and parts of Europe. With Queen Elizabeth II's legacy firmly etched in history after her passing in 2022, collectors are looking back at early issues that capture the essence of her reign. The Wilding series, with its dignified portrait and regal design, stands out as a defining representation of her early years. As a result, the 2D stamp, particularly in blocks, panes, and presentation packs, is climbing in value due to its increasing demand and diminishing supply in high grades. Philatelists today are also more informed and connected than ever. Online resources, grading services, and digital marketplaces have allowed collectors to seek higher quality, verify authenticity, and identify minute varieties. Sites like eBay, Delcamp, Hipstamp, and major auction houses regularly feature Wilding stamps. And the competition is growing steadily. While there may still be plenty of used examples in old albums or collections, truly high-grade, unmounted mint stamps are much scarcer and always attract premium bids. And as time goes on, it's likely that the market for these classic definitives will only become more competitive, especially as they are being viewed increasingly as historical artifacts and alternative collectibles alongside coins, banknotes, and royal memorabilia. Before we conclude, let's give a word of advice to all collectors, especially those new to the Wilding series. Always store your stamps in acid-free albums, never use glue or tape, and avoid humid conditions that can cause paper toning or gum damage. Use quality stamp tongs to avoid fingerprints and creases, and whenever you suspect you own a rare variant or valuable piece, consult a certified expert or philatelic society. Many treasures go unnoticed in inherited albums or flea market finds simply because they were never examined closely. You might be surprised at what lies hidden in your collection. Thank you for joining us for this extended and in-depth episode on the 2D Queen Elizabeth II Wilding stamp here on Stamps Old World UK. If you found this video informative, please consider subscribing, hitting the like button, and turning on notifications so you never miss a future upload. Share this video with fellow collectors and tell us in the comments below, do you have a 2D Wilding in your collection? Do you own any of the rare variations we discussed today? We'd love to hear your stories. Until next time, remember that every stamp has a past, every design holds meaning, and every collector helps keep history alive. Happy collecting, and may your albums always be full of treasures.